Hello viewers, I am your host Uzma Jafri with another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show with India, where the 15th Russia, India and China RIC Foreign Ministerial trilateral meeting was held in New Delhi. Besides discussing the geopolitical and economical ties, the grouping also held bilateral meetings with each other. Our report.
Indian Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj and her counterparts from China and Russia, Wang Yi and Sergei Lavrov, respectively shared the platform in New Delhi on the occasion of 15th Foreign Ministerial Summit. All three nations condemned the growing terrorism across the globe and agreed to boost anti-militancy cooperation in tackling global security threats.
打击地区恐怖主义、分裂主义和极端主义三股势力。5是推动构建开放型世界经济。
Мы особое внимание уделили борьбе с терроризмом, подчеркнули бескомпромиссность этой борьбы с терроризмом во всех его формах и проявлениях, включая распространение террористической и экстремистской идеологии.
Indian Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj emphasized on ensuring a fair implementation of the Paris Agreement on the principles laid down by the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Convention.
हम सब ने ये तय किया कि हम पेरिस एग्रीमेंट और UNFCCC द्वारा निर्धारित सिद्धांतों, विशेषकर समानता लेकिन भिन्न उत्तरदायित्व यानी कॉमन बट डिफरेंशिएटेड रिस्पांसिबिलिटी को निष्पक्ष रूप से लागू करने को सुनिश्चित करेंगे.
On the sidelines of the event, Swaraj and her Chinese counterpart Wang held delegation-level talks to strengthen bilateral ties, especially the border issues. Swaraj also held delegation-level talks with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, where Russia emphasized at the growing bilateral trade between the nations.
We aim to increase it to $30 billion by the year 2025, and this goal can be achieved through combining our natural competitive advantages and promoting spectacular joint endeavors such as in aerospace industry or shipbuilding.
India and Russia enjoy strong diplomatic, defense and economic ties. According to Russian Federal Customs Service data, bilateral trade during 2016 amounted to $7.71 billion between the two countries.
Apart from trade, the three major world powers are concerned about growing menace of terrorism. To speak more on this, we are now joined by a senior journalist, Rahul Jalali. Mr. Jalali, how do you see the latest trilateral meet of Russia, India, China? Do you think it is more effective and productive than the BRICS?
Well, yes, certainly it is poised to be more effective and productive than the BRICS summit because Russia, India, China are active players in this region where terrorism exists. In fact, Pakistan is the active creator of terrorism in the world, and Pakistan borders all these three countries. So in that sense, yes, this summit between these three nations, when it comes to countering terrorism, assumes a major importance. But unfortunately, China often sings a different tune when it comes to terror. So that is the only discordant note which comes in here. But compared to BRICS, yes, it is important because Brazil is in BRICS, who really don't have any interest in this region and fighting terror in this region.
Do you think that Russia, India, China is the strongest grouping of nations that can counter the menace of terrorism?
Well, it's a pretty strong grouping of nations, and yes, they can counter the menace of terrorism, but they have to be in unison in their strategies to fight terrorism. First, all three have to recognize that Pakistan is the epicenter of terror in this region, and all three have to have policies to control terrorism which emanates from Pakistan. So this is crucial to their fight against terrorism. So they have got to be on the same page. Unfortunately, that often doesn't happen.
Thank you, Mr. Jalali, for your views. Now let's talk about Pakistan, where the human rights violations are on the rise. To mark the International Human Rights Day, Baloch and Sindhi activists in Europe and the UK held demonstrations to expose Pakistan's cruel face. We have a report.
Will not see the peace Braving rains, these Baloch and Sindhi activists led a procession from Trafalgar Square to 10 Downing Street in London on International Human Rights Day.
Hundreds and thousands of people have been disappeared. And
they raised their voice against enforced disappearances, torture, killing and dumping of bodies of social and political activists by security agencies in Pakistan.
To raise our voice until the human rights are our people.
The protesters condemned the abduction of Baloch women and children and requested the International Committee to press Pakistan to stop the atrocities against Baloch and Sindhi people.
And I have all the belief that they will come. Long live Sindh, long live Balochistan.
A petition was also submitted to British Prime Minister Theresa May, requesting to use her influence for the establishment of an international commission to investigate crimes against humanity being perpetrated by Pakistan.
If there are no human rights, there will not be peace. And that's what we are saying in Sindh and Balochistan. Hundreds and thousands of people have been disappeared. And I was talking to a friend of mine and I said to him, did we expect a year ago that they will abduct women and children? We didn't expect this. This is happening now.
Every day, bodies are dumped in different parts of Sindh and Balochistan, and this is something that has been reported by human rights organizations. Yet no action has been taken against Pakistan, and they have been carrying out these abuses with impunity.
In South Korea's Busan city, activists of Baloch Republican Party held a demonstration to demand Pakistan to stop Baloch genocide and bring an end to the ongoing human rights violations in Balochistan. They shouted anti-Pakistan slogans with an aim to make the world aware about human rights crimes against Baloch people. The Baloch protesters also demanded Switzerland to review its decision of rejecting asylum to Baloch Republican Party President Nawab Brahmadag Bukti.
इसका मकसद बलूचिस्तान पर होने वाले मजालिम के खिलाफ जो बलूचिस्तान में जुल्म ज़्यादतियाँ हो रही हैं इस हवाले से किया जा रहा है। आज 10 दिसंबर के हवाले से हम यूनाइटेड नेशन, यूरोपीय यूनियन और दुनिया के उन सिविलाइज कंट्रीज से ये अपील करते हैं कि बलूचिस्तान में जो जुल्म ज़्यादतियाँ हो रही हैं उसके खिलाफ अपनी खामोशी खत्म कर दें।
Human rights violations in Pakistan have intensified since the launch of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Pakistan Army has launched massive operations in Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Sindh to prevent any opposition against the multi-billion-dollar project. The political activists seek urgent international attention to stop atrocities on the civilians.
The situation is really grim in parts of Pakistan. My colleague Ravi Khandelwal recently spoke to Lakhu Luhana, a Sindhi political activist, on the situation.
The issue of political activists, those who are being targeted by the Pakistani forces is a major concern in Sindh. Like the case of Pulhan Sario, who has been missing for a few months now. So how do you see the act of Pakistani army on torturing and killing and kidnapping these political activists?
It's not only how we see it, because there are problems which are close to our heart. Because these are our fellow activists. These are our people. These are our base people. It's not what we think of it. The international community has clearly, showed and suggested and says that anybody who's abducted, enforced and tortured or extrajudicial is a crime. It's not a crime, it's a crime against humanity. and Pakistan has been carrying for last 70 years, and that should stop. And that is nobody else, because say for example, when our friends they go to register FIR, because they don't take you in the, I mean in the dark of the night, they come like in the daytime, like hundreds of people, because they have become so powerful that they don't want to even hide. They come in their official vehicles, Rangers, MI, ISI, and then pick them. There are scores of witnesses to this.
Lakusab, you have been raising the issue of Sindh at the United Nations for several years now. So does it make any impact?
I think probably yes. There are a couple of things that could be noticed. One thing that, because the onslaught on the struggle of Sindhi people is unprecedented. Anybody, forget about those who raise voice, but even if they have got this doubt that these people have got potential to raise voice, they are gone. And therefore, say for example, this voice for missing persons, what they were doing, they were raising democratic struggle, sit-ins, release the missing persons. They abducted the convener of that voice for missing persons because they don't want to have any voice, because their sensitivity as a result of CPAC has become so fragile that they cannot really, they want to crush anything. So when we do these things and efforts here and initiatives here, when we raise voice here, when we go to the international community, UN, European Parliament, USA parliamentarians, then that gives them that moral support and moral boost that no, there are people who are still there raising voice. So we create a message of hope among the people, not to get them demoralized and desperate.
Moving on to Nepal, where politics is undergoing a seismic shift. Moderate left CPN UML and Maoist Centre have emerged top winners after the completion of the first past-the-post counting of both federal and the provincial elections and are certain to form the government. We have a report.
Streets of Nepal wore hues of red after the Left Alliance of Communist Party of Nepal Unified Marxist-Leninist and CPN Maoist bagged 116 seats out of a total 165 under the first past-the-post system. Former Prime Minister KP Oli-led CPN UML won 80 seats, which is nearly 50% of the total 165 seats under the direct voting system. The CPN Maoist and the Nepali Congress won 36 and 23 seats respectively. The Left Alliance also secured a majority in all provincial assemblies except province number 2, where Madhesis had a strong hold. Out of 330, CPN UML won 168 seats, followed by Maoist Centre with 73 seats. The Nepali Congress stood third by securing 41 seats. The RJP and FSFN have secured 16 and 24 seats respectively, and the remaining 8 seats went to the remaining smaller parties.
यो मत परिणाम अपेक्षाकृत मत परिणाम हो, किनभने अहिले जुन नेकपा एमाले र नेकपा माओवादी केन्द्रका बीच सहमति भइसकेपछि बहुमतको जुन कुरा गरिराखेका थिए उनीहरूले, त्यो बहुमत भन्दा अलिकति बढी हो, तर आशा गरिए अनुरूप नै हो यो जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई.
Left-leaning parties had announced before the elections that they would merge after the polls. Many believe that this was one of the prime reasons which changed the dynamics of the polls. It is being said by political analysts that after the formation of an ideologically left-leaning government, there will be an unprecedented growth in relations between China and Nepal. China has been persistently attempting to rope in Nepal under its ambitious One Belt One Road project, which was earlier signed by Nepal but didn't see any significant work under it. These elections were the first to be held under Nepal's newly promulgated constitution, which was officially adopted in 2015 after decades of uncertainty that took the country from monarchy and civil war to tentative democracy. KP Oli now is likely to be the head of the new government.
KP Oli headed the government for a brief period between October 2015 and August 2016. However, he lost his seat when Maoists broke the alliance and was forced to resign from a minority government. Moving on to Sri Lanka, where the debt-ridden government officially handed over the strategic Hambantota port to China for a term of 99 years. The port, near the main shipping route from Asia to Europe, is expected to play a key role in China's Belt and Road Initiative. A report.
A Sri Lankan delegation led by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and Minister of Ports and Shipping Mahinda Samarasinghe formally handed over the assets and management rights of the Hambantota port to China Merchants Group at the Sri Lanka Parliament building in the country's capital, Colombo. The Chinese delegation was co-led by Hu Jianhua, Deputy General Manager of China Merchants Group, and Yi Jianliang, Chinese Ambassador to Sri Lanka. Prime Minister Wickremesinghe, after announcing the handover, said that he believed that joint venture will help promote the trade cooperation in the region.
This joint venture is not merely about developing the port. It's about developing the Indian Ocean, developing trade connectivity in the Indian Ocean. And the Hambantota hub will play a key role in promoting more trade and thereby encouraging further trade connectivity and trade cooperation between the countries of the region and together with the rest of the world.
The $1.3 billion port was opened 7 years ago using debt from Chinese state-controlled entities and to chip away the massive debt incurred by the island nation in building the strategic port. Sri Lanka in July this year had signed a $1.12 billion deal to sell a 70% stake of the port to China. Sri Lanka has received $292 million out of a $1.12 billion deal. Many questions arose over the deal. India has expressed its apprehensions over China using the port as its naval base. However, the government of Sri Lanka has maintained that the deal was signed to benefit both countries commercially and it will never allow China to undermine its sovereignty.
There won't be any politics in this investment. There won't be any defense related activity in this investment. This is a 100% commercial investment, which is a win-win situation for both sides.
China, which has shored up its presence in the Indian Ocean by investing billions of dollars under Belt and Road Initiative to expand its market reach to more than 60 countries in Asia, the Middle East, Africa and Europe, is being seen with suspicion by many analysts across Sri Lanka and other countries. Experts believe that lease could set a precedent for Sri Lanka and other countries that owe money to China to accept deals that involve the signing over of territory. Their apprehensions were strengthened after China's partners, including Pakistan, which is China's partner in the BRI's flagship project CPEC, started to become wary over the terms dictated by it.
Pakistan, Nepal and Myanmar have recently cancelled or sidelined major hydroelectricity projects planned by Chinese companies. The projects would have been worth a total of $20 billion. Moving on to Afghanistan, where authorities organized a trade fair in Kabul to inject some momentum into the local manufacturing sector amid a rise in insurgent attacks in the country. A report.
Under high security checks, more than 100 companies from across Afghanistan participated and exhibited their products in capital city Kabul. Najim, an entrepreneur, began an artwork business about 4 months ago. Due to his lack of capital, he designed his own artwork and asked others to make products at home.
First of all, to show our tradition in our samples and our products to the world, and to keep alive our tradition and for the world. And the second purpose is to make job opportunity for women, for youngsters.
Historically, agricultural and handicrafts products occupied an important position in Afghanistan's economy. However, the country's real economy was handicapped by continuous wars and a deteriorating security situation. Javed Faryad, a worker at a motorcycle company, said that now there are 35 to 40 motorcycle factories in Afghanistan. Although small components like lights and horns are usually imported from China, The main body of the motorcycle can be manufactured by Afghan workers according to local demands. The only problem for them is safety, as the country has been gripped by years of war.
داینده از نظر شخصی خودم یک آینده روشن‌تر دارن اگر همکاری های دولت که از اینا باشه امکانات در دسترسشان بده تمام مواد خامشان و از نگاه امنیتیشان که صحیح ماحول کارشان آرام باشه یا میتونن یک پیشرفت ترقی بسیار بالا داشته باشه.
Other reasons for the Afghanistan's local market decline include lack of access to continuous power, lack of land, excessive rents. They said their businesses will take off once the government provides support.
Taliban has reoccupied large swaths of the country and has a significant portion under its control. To hold an event amid the security crisis in the country also indicates high morale of the US-backed security forces of the country. Moving on to India, where with the passage of time, people have changed different modes of transportation, varying from bullock carts to modern cars. Many have a passion to preserve those old and classical cars for the coming generations to remember. Take a look.
Meet Dr. S. Farooq, a resident of Dehradun city in northern Uttarakhand state who has a rich collection of vintage cars. Driven by a passion for possession, he has collected nearly 35 cars in his quest to keep the legacy alive, one piece at a time. Dr. Farooq has been a regular at vintage car rallies in Dehradun city for almost 2 decades now and is always looking to expand his collection. Some of these car models date back to 1926.
कि इंजन में कैसे कैसे चेंज आया, क्या क्या डेवलपमेंट हुआ, क्या मामला कैसे था, इसकी शेप में क्या चेंजेस आए, क्यों वो चेंजेस किए, वो सारी चीज़ें. इसके अलावा जो है हिंदुस्तान सोने की चिड़िया थी. अब वो उस वक्त में कैसे लोग रहते थे, उनके पास गाड़ियाँ थीं या नहीं थीं. तो इंडिया जो है खुशहाल लोग हमेशा से रहे यहाँ पर और ये गाड़ियाँ जो हैं ये उसकी पहचान है और इनको प्रिजर्व करना चाहिए, वरना तो ये टीन की है बनी हुई, ये तो ख़त्म हो जाएगा अगर जो ऐसे इनको प्रिजर्व ना किया गया.
After over 2 decades of research about the evolution of the modes of transportation, a heritage transport museum was initiated as India's first comprehensive transport museum. The museum showcases the evolution of transportation in India and sets a benchmark in interpretation, exhibition, and in communication.
It's all unique. It's really well thought of, put together really well. Everything's restored and put together in such a way that it's mind-blowing.
The automobile gallery at the museum showcases the evolution of the Indian car industry as well as cars that have been used in India since the advent of motoring. On display are over 75 vintage and classic cars parked alongside a recreated Indian street from yesteryears sporting vintage ephemera. There are several individuals who have a collection of vintage and classical cars. Occasionally, these sleek and svelte beauties of a bygone era enthrall car enthusiasts during the rallies.
Vintage and classical cars truly reflect India's royal history. With that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Take care and goodbye.